Good evening, everyone. My name's Sam Guy. I want to welcome you to Community Crossfire. Today, I've had a couple of television shows where I've shared some information about some of the accusations that have been made against me. And it's been pretty interesting to see some of the reaction and response. So on the earlier shows, I actually put a chart up that showed the amount of money that was available and that I didn't receive any money for money that should have been split up 3 ways. So that video is now posted on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you want to really see the details of the whole story about the money, from the letter that they wrote me telling me no money, to me finding out in a chart that they gave Rashima Dixon $6,500 and gave Cyril Adams $250 and gave me no money, when you add all of that up, it should have been split evenly. $2,250 for each one of us, because there's no rationale to give almost all of it to one person. But the details of that story are available to you. But at this point in time, that game is over. Okay. I also played a videotape where somebody took a partial remark and I played the whole video, and if time permits, I'd almost like to show that again, but again, that's on the posted video if you want to see the details of that. But the story is, there were some kids who gave a presentation, and they had an opportunity to make a video, and they were able to make a professional video. Their job was to pick the topic. They picked a topic that basically was a topic revealing that racism is interfering with their life. Don't judge me. And I had some very serious remarks, being a person who's been an NAACP leader and believes in civil rights and justice and fairness. I had some serious remarks. But there was nothing problematic. You have to remember, a council person has First Amendment rights just like every other citizen does. So I exercise my First Amendment rights in support of those children. And my biggest problem was the fact that here we have another generation of people who are being subject to this foolishness. And I'll let you see the rest. Now, what I wanted to do here tonight is basically there's 3 kind of categories I want to talk about. The group of 8, and I called it a lynching without due process, because the group they operated kind of in the old kind of Ku Klux Klan mob type of behavior. It was a mixed group, black and white elected officials. And what they basically did is, in Delaware, you're supposed to post a meeting notice and an agenda 7 days before the meeting. So they posted an agenda, and there was nothing on it about messing with me. So then they waited till like 11-something the day of the meeting, and they sent out something. I've learned about this after the fact. They sent something out to the News Journal and WDEL, and they may have sent it other places, but they sent something to them basically giving them a document saying stuff about me in the form of a resolution. But I didn't talk to those folks, because I was busy doing what I was doing that day, so I didn't talk to them at all. So I didn't know what they wanted. I didn't have any interaction with those media people. Later on in the day, somebody from the staff called me and left a message that They've changed the agenda and there's a new item on the agenda. But the way cowards work, whoever had the person make the call, they must have told them, but don't tell them what it is. Just say it like it's nothing important. And usually if something is added at the last minute, it's not anything important, because you can't really do anything that's of major importance like that without having to go to some other committee meeting or something of that nature, or first and second and then a third and final. So by the time I ended up learning that they were trying to do this ambush with like a 19-page document, obviously it doesn't give you enough time to really respond, because I would kick their butts if they had given me the 7 days notice. They can all vote however they want to vote, but they would have been torn up, because I would have had an opportunity to collect the videotapes and things of that nature. So you all saw some of that stuff earlier this morning, and I'm not going to repeat it. It's an honor. It really is an honor when people are so scared to be fair that they have to cheat to try to win. And you have to keep in mind that they didn't need to cheat, because it was 8 of them. So they could have gave me a notice a week in advance, and the 8 of them just came in and voted however they wanted to vote. But they felt a need to cheat to try to win. So that tells you about what was going on. And I always attribute it to the leadership. See, Hanifa is not a person of good character. And she cannot be trusted as I see it, because she's just showed me she can't be trusted, because she was the sponsor of this legislation and I'm the subject matter of the legislation. Now, anybody, any white person in America, I'm going to be straight about Hanifa. If she was introducing some legislation about tow trucks, she would probably contact the biggest tow truck company. Okay, and if it was something about economic development, she'd check with Pachidi, Poland, and Perzicki to see if it was okay first. So the legislation's about me. She's the sponsor, but she's got to be a coward and not post it 7 days in advance. But that's all good, because she's showing who she is. Because the community, one thing everybody in the community knows, and that is Sam Guy's going to break his neck not to be no sellout. I'm looking out for the interests of all of the people throughout the city of Wilmington, everybody. So what I wanted to let you all know, here's the first thing I want you to know. Because, you know, sometimes when you see all of this commotion going on, there's some people who don't do the work. And since I've been on council, I've honored my promises to you. So I'm getting ready to talk about a few different things related to this attack. I made some promises. I said that I was going to be the watchman, and that I was going to share things with you, and that I didn't want to have your blood on my hands by sitting back and not letting you know when there were things of danger to you, and that I was going to try to put in place things helpful to the community, and that I was going to try to share information with the new people on council so that they could grow fast. Now, the people who are already on council, who've been there a long time, which is Hanifa Shabazz, Bud Friel, Loretta Walsh, it became very clear from the beginning that they did not appreciate me sharing information with the new members of council so that they could actually have an understanding of their power and authority as members of Wilmington City Council, and a lot of other details and things that they're supposed to have a say in. See, I'm supposed to join those three in not sharing anything with the new people. So if I walked into council and said to them three, yeah, they don't know certain stuff, and let's get together and do wrong by them, then they would have hugged me and embraced me. But when they saw me wanting to be fair and share with the new people about things, they had a problem with that. So let me tell you a couple things that have happened since I've been on council. I've introduced a resolution urging the Wilmington Parking Authority to rename the Wilmington Parking Authority facility after William H. Dutch Burton, or take other appropriate action. I've had a resolution requesting the names of outstanding Wilmington students from school districts. I've had a resolution to maintain the structure and size of Wilmington City Council. A resolution encouraging the state of Delaware to recognize the effects of the absence of local control of public education afforded to Wilmington residents, as well as the impact of the drawing of boundary lines for school districts and school board election voting processes. I've had a resolution to amend the rules of council of the city of Wilmington regarding standing committees to create a judiciary committee. I've had an ordinance introduced to amend Chapter 5 of the City Code regarding notification to neighborhood planning councils. I've had an ordinance introduced to amend Chapter 2 of the City Code regarding the requirement of monthly reports to council from the law department. I've had an ordinance to amend the operating budget to give each new member of council $5,000 for scholarships and $500 of discretionary funds. Okay? That totaled about $29,000. Then I have several other pieces of legislation. One piece of legislation for council to receive the manual that the police department uses so that we as council have an understanding of what police are supposed to do as they interact with the community and do their job. All departments have manuals for their departments. That legislation, along with several other pieces of legislation, has been held by either President or Bud Friel committee holding it up. So they basically said he's passing too much legislation because they said it to somebody who let me know, like, hey, you got to do something about that. Well, see, I've prepared myself to be a council person. So I have a lot of good ideas, and I basically sift through them and pick which ones I'm going to do first and which ones I'm going to hold up. So I have a basket full of ideas, and when I was on council before, if you look at samguy.net, there's probably over like 45 ordinances and 45 resolutions in my one term, because I have ideas based on my experience and studying. Okay, so some people have a problem with that. Now, if I was white, there wouldn't be no problem with me doing what I do. But it's against the rules around here in Delaware and Wilmington for a black man to do a lot of the stuff that I do at the rate that I do it. That's not my problem. It's designed to actually help make life better here. But some folks view that as we got to shut you down because they're thinking politically. It's pretty interesting that I ran for at-large a long time ago. I was an at-large councilman. I ran again. I didn't win because certain people said, we got to get him out of here. They kill you not for what you are. They try to kill you for what they think you can become. And so what's going on with me right now, because I know you all need to understand, there's folks that have these thoughts about, well, you know, you got to watch out for him. He might want to be the mayor, or he might want to be the president of council. Well, I'm telling you all straight up, I ran to be the city councilman at large, and I wasn't planning on running for mayor or city council president. What has happened with all these attacks is I'm having all these people telling me that's what I ought to do next time. But it was never a thought in my mind, and it's not a thought in my mind now, but people keep saying that to me because it seems as if people really dissatisfied, and I'm finding that a lot of people appreciate what I'm trying to do. But the truth be told, I ran to be a city councilman at large because, see, I don't have to drive the car to enjoy the ride. But I got people who actually are saying, we don't want you to participate when I'm a participant. So the attacks are actually part of a long-term strategy because they thought I was dead 15 years ago. And I showed up out of nowhere on them, and they weren't able to react fast enough, I guess, to try to kill me off again. So I'm here. So now Hanifa's job, along with her chief of staff, I've learned that Gary Fullman is her main person managing the staff. And the staff, there's a few people on the staff who won't do work for me. And as I carefully read the documents that were put in, I recognized some of the things being said that were from conversation with the chief of staff. So I realized that Bud Friel and the chief of staff, they go way back. So there's a real major issue going on here, and I'm not worrying about it. I'm going to do my job as a council person, but I now realize that this thing is wider than I thought it was. I actually thought he was a friend of mine, and I realize now that he's part of this. And that's sad. It's really sad because it's not necessary. But the people that work for him, they're doing a lot of dirty stuff. But I wanted you to get an idea of some of that legislation. I have other legislation pending. I have other stuff that's being held. Like Hanifa Shabazz just says, I'm not putting Sam Guy's legislation on the agenda. So like this thing, this ambush, they created it and put it on the agenda before they put about 4 or 5 pieces of legislation I have. So my legislation should have been on the agenda if this made it to the agenda. So that's the kind of crooked stuff that's going on. But it's not going to last. Because like I'm not mad. It's a compliment when folks do dirty, rotten stuff in a dirty, rotten way, disregard due process. Like then they say that I'm having some concerns about racism. Well, these folks are so slow that everybody in America knows that if a person expresses concern about racism, you don't retaliate against them. Like in their written document, they literally say that Sam Guy has expressed concerns and complaints about racism, and these fools retaliate against me for doing that. Everybody knows you don't retaliate when a person expresses concern about racism. You address the concern about racism. That's the kind of leadership that we're getting from Hanifa Shabazz, and the law department helped draft it. Now that's Przicky's people, but they work with her. The law department has gone as far as to not approve some of my legislation as to form as a way to block it. So my legislation that was designed for law reports, they tried to play around with that. And there's other legislation where they say, well, we just won't sign it. And Hanifa's like, well, we just won't put it on the agenda. But yet her thing was on the agenda. What I want you all to know is I'm not telling you this stuff like really complaining. I'm telling this stuff to you because we're in a fight in this community. And I'm talking about the whole city of Wilmington is in a fight. Because I've studied the voting patterns. And everybody in every neighborhood had people who voted for the people who are empowered now, and some neighborhoods didn't. A lot of people think that everybody in the 8th district was in support of Pizicki, Pacini, Poland, Hanifa Shabazz. I've studied the voting record. Everybody over there wasn't for that. And just like any other neighborhood, there's different people with different points of view. Wilmingtonians have always been proud to be Wilmingtonians and proud to be independent, and we don't like people messing with our charter. That's why we got mad as Wilmingtonians when the police department went to Dover and were able to move out of the city, because Wilmingtonians had voted to have a residency clause for all city of Wilmington residents. That's done. It's over. But Wilmingtonians don't like people coming into Wilmington interfering with us. But all the people from outside of Wilmington come in interfering with Wilmington. And that's why we end up having so many people who are in positions of leadership who their honor is to the folks who don't really have no long history of caring about Wilmington, no love for Wilmington. They just been bought. Certain ones just been bought. They've provided them with the money so that they could run, and now they have what they want. And they plan to do what they want to do. And what they understand is that Sam Guy sitting here who's free. I'm certified as free. What do I mean by certified? 8 folks voted to try to say, we don't want you to talk, we don't want you to do what you do in America where there's a First Amendment. What that means is I can take that document to any politician anywhere in the country, and they know that that document means that I'm independent and able to freely look out for the people of the community. And that's what I'm going to do. I've been called worse names than censored. Worse names than that. And you all know what I'm talking about. So the people who did this, they now have a problem because they now are revealed for who they are. You see? And they're revealed in March. So all of you all out there, you now know who the team is that the people who control the government can go to when they're trying to do harm to somebody. It's clear as day. It's known. So now they got to deal with being around here in the community with people knowing what's going on. So what is it when somebody says they want to censor you? Basically, that's them saying they disapprove of your purpose or your point, what you're doing, how you're doing it. Okay, well, I disapprove of what they're doing and how they're doing it. So guess we have a stalemate, huh? Now I'm gonna continue to represent the people who I said I would represent them. Nobody that I know in Wilmington, Delaware ever ran for office and their platform was to be the watchman in Ezekiel 33, to say that on the front end so that the people who don't want that could know to vote against you. But the people who want that can vote for you. I don't recall anybody saying they're running for office as the watchman through Ezekiel 33. Up front, no curveballs. I also said at the orientation when we were sworn in that because they were cheating then, they were cheating from the beginning. Prayer was stolen that day. People didn't get to have committee chairmanships. A judiciary committee wasn't created. Other council members didn't get to chair any committee. Everything was consolidated so that whoever got money from Puccini Poland, they got the key committees. And that would be economic development, finance, and public safety, and planning committee. Those committees were combined and all of the power consolidated in their people. Your city is basically under the thumb of a corporation and the mayor, and the rest of the people look for their message. How do I know? I introduced a piece of legislation that was designed to empower the community. It was the legislation I read for more notification to neighborhood planning councils comprised of civic associations so that they would know about what's happening in their neighborhood in time to be able to have a voice in what takes place. No quicker than I put that out, there's a front page article where Puccini Poland and the mayor Pazicki are on the front page saying all these reasons why the legislation is no good and can't go through. Next thing I know, I go to a committee meeting. Here come Hanifa running in, and Xanthia, they running in, huffing and puffing, wanting to make sure they get there so that they can repeat exactly what was said in the newspaper, because that's what they're supposed to do. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that's the way this game is going to play out? Yes, it is. That's how it's going to play out. These folks are so blatantly obvious with what they say, and then the reaction of the people who they have under their thumb, that they don't even give no thought to how it might appear to people who are paying attention. But that's the world that we live in. So what is censure? Disapproval, disapproval. Here's my statement to the President and Council. I want everybody to understand this, because this is really important. If you want to be under the thumb of somebody, that is okay if you want to do that to yourself. But don't try to include me in the package deal and the rest of council that, yeah, I'm under your thumb and my job, I will go make sure the rest of them are under my thumb so that I can deliver them all to you whenever you all want them. Don't do that to me. Don't even try to do that to me. You're trying to do that to me. That's partly what this censor foolishness is about. They told you you got to get him under control. That's what they told you. That's how it works. Everybody who's not young and new to this knows this is a power move, like y'all got to do something about him. Well, there's no reason to do anything about me, because you all just heard the list of my legislation, and those topics are topics that are designed to make sure that council is empowered and that the community is protected. So folks might disagree as to a particular word, a particular letter, but conceptually, those aren't things that are designed to be harmful to anybody. But if you get taught to hate, or if you're required to hate because you took whatever it is that you took, in whatever form that may be, and now you have to kind of do what you need to do to make everything work out, then if you do that, just make it only be yourself. Don't try to cut me in on the deal. I am free, and censoring me, because I'm not a coward, is not going to make me go cry and then say, okay, I'm going to be a slave too. What do you want me to do, and when do you want me to do it? I'm not that guy. That's not me. And y'all know that's not me, and somebody need to go tell her that she's fooling with the wrong one, and she's doing it on behalf of some people that even make it more offensive to me, because I know the history of what this group of folks has done to a whole bunch of people politically, all the way out in Newcastle County and all over this state, because I've been in this stuff a long time and in a position to see a whole bunch of stuff. Now, the real thing that should bother you is, and don't include the community in the deal. If you want to be under the thumb, don't put the community under the thumb. Stay out of the business of the community. If I want to help the community and use my time to have a judiciary committee, like those 4 people who came to the city council meeting, 4 families showed up very disheartened that the city of Wilmington wasn't doing anything because they have family members impacted by the criminal justice system and impacted by what's happening down there in Smyrna prison, and things they said were happening to their family, and they said the city wasn't doing anything. And I'm sitting there watching because Hanifa Shabazz and 6 of her people decided that they didn't want a judiciary committee after I told them that we had one 15 years ago, and that it was able to capture those issues with a legal twist that none of the other committees can handle. But she rather see Wilmingtonians in pain and seeking help when those people should have been referred to the Judiciary Committee. It would have been 3 or 4 people on there that work those kind of issues for Wilmington people, because it makes a difference. That's how we had a pardon program in Wilmington. That's how we used to get the children represented that were expelled from school. That's how we dealt with environmental justice issues. But she doesn't want issues dealt with unless the bosses tell her that's okay to deal with that. They don't want any justice or fairness for you as Wilmingtonians. She's the spokesperson for the folks who she's answering to. She don't have no power. Bud Friel is just moving her like a puppet. She's got a position and a title. But if you have a position and a title and it's not being used for the benefit of the people, then it's a worthless thing to have. It's worthless. Why would a person who's the president of council tinker with a councilman's money, 2 council members' money? We're talking about $6,500 plus $250. Why would a president of a city council in the United States of America try to be slick and divvy it up in an unfair manner and then make sure that they hide it so nobody knows? Then when it gets learned, then they there mum. Trippy Congo is the nicest guy in the world, but Trippy Congo is quiet, he's well-mannered, and he's smart as heck. But people like her underestimate him because he's so nice. It's not all about being slick and manipulative. That's not how he rolls. So when he sent out an email and said to everybody, could somebody explain the disparity, it was crickets. Remember those kids who didn't get to play their basketball game? Back in the day, that issue, because it was so many Wilmington children, would have been sent to the Judiciary Committee. Then the Judiciary Committee would have then made an effort to try to figure out how to get them some assistance for them to have their due process rights respected. But you have to put these things in place in advance. But the president of council didn't want anything in place to be able to help our children when there's legal issues cutting across impacting a bunch of them. It don't matter whether they was right or wrong. We'll never know because they never had a due process hearing the way it's supposed to be held. They didn't get a chance to go into court for a judge to hear what took place because Hanifa Shabazz wouldn't allow a judiciary committee to be put in place and to prepare for being able to help with big legal issues. See, when people start intentionally blocking people from having access to help, I got a problem with that kind of person. They don't want to lift a finger to help, but they want to make sure there's no help available for other people. She's crying in her document that I filed a FOIA complaint. Well, first, I filed for a judiciary committee, and she had her 6 people plus her vote against it. She was lobbying people vote against it. Right? So, she votes against it. The judiciary committee used to make sure that we were informed about legal issues. So then I introduced the legislation. When I introduced it, she sends it to a committee that has nothing to do with legal issues. It's called the Finance and Economic Development Committee, chaired by Friel. Well, he's the boss of City Council. She turned it over to him. We delegated the authority to her, but she's put him in charge. And then whenever he wants to stop anything, he has her refer the legislation to him, and then he has the people, some of the same people who voted against me are the same people on that committee. That's where they have it set up to be able to shut down anything they want to shut down. Okay, and this stuff ain't new. You know, I have a master's in public administration. I'm a lawyer. I've been a council person before. I done studied this stuff, lived it. There's no trick and there's no game that you can pull. It just don't exist. And if you find one, give me 15 minutes. So, there is a FOIA complaint because the law department's giving her and a few people private legal updates after he tells us that he can't give legal updates to the whole council through my ordinance, but my ordinance is almost 99% the same as the county's ordinance, and since 2004 they've been giving legal updates to the council. So in other words, see, this council, this is how I look at it, they don't have no respect. That's the mayor's appointee, and he comes into a council meeting and tells the council people he don't want to have to give no written report to council. And there's more people, the people on council in the position actually support us being kept dumb about the legal affairs of the city. Now, you all need to know that, because if you got council people who don't want to know about the legal affairs of the city, with all of the money that leaks out of the law department and risk management that is not shared with all members of council, okay? You all need to know that and pay attention to that kind of stuff. So, one other thing. At night, when I do go to bed, I feel good every night about being a councilman in the city of Wilmington and trying to think up ways to look out for the people of Wilmington. I feel good about it every day. And there's nothing 8 people can say that's going to make me feel any different, because they just don't know no better. They follow in the blind. They got a person who can't even conduct the city council meetings without having to bend over and ask the guy sitting next to her, you know, what's going on. He may as well run for city council president and run the doggone meeting. So you come up and you start a bunch of mess and you don't even know how to do the stuff right. It's just crazy. But the new people are being taught to be bad people. All of them aren't being bad people, but she's trying to teach them how to be like her. And she's not the role model for a black elected official. And I have a problem when she went and told the Muslim community, I was there, I told the Muslim community that it's important who chairs committees because they have important power, important role in setting the agenda. There's items, you all, that have never been on a city council agenda that are important to your life, because folks ain't worrying about the agenda that's important to your life. They worried about the agenda that's important to the people who got money in their life. Go back and look at every doggone agenda. You'll see that most of the stuff isn't what you need addressed. Some of it is. Some of them deviate from that. But the ones where it was designed for people to head it, who's the head, who's part of the team, they're not putting the stuff on there to look out for your interests. They're putting the stuff on there to look out for the moneyed interests. Vash Turner is a chair of the Public Works Committee. They offered him to chair that committee. Then they tried to backdoor him, Hanifa did, to give it to me. After I've told all the young people that I want all you all to get to chair a committee so that you can learn how to participate. I want you all to introduce legislation so that you can get comfortable in the legislative process. I'm not a hypocrite. So I'm not going to get and agree, oh, I'll take that from Vash. I'm not that kind of dude. That's not how I roll. But that's how she rolls. I don't have to take nothing from nobody else. There's other committees that could exist. And there's one in particular where I can be helpful to this community and to this council, but when it's political, then she's got an obligation to try to do whatever she can do to keep me from participating, but she's not capable of doing that. I think the Detroit Pistons had something called the Jordan rules, but you can't stop Michael Jordan permanently. You might slow him up for a minute, but the next time you look around, he's going to be slam dunking on you. So keep playing if y'all want to, because I can play too. Money that I should have to distribute to young people who want to do something. One of the best things that ever happened to me in my life was I gave a scholarship the last time I was a councilman, and next thing I know, I'm teaching at a school, and one of the students I gave scholarship money to got hired at that school as well. Those are the kind of things that just make you feel good as an elected official. That's something that you did made a difference. Well, I have a whole bunch of stuff that I did that made a difference. There's a whole bunch of kids that didn't get expelled from school back in the day because I had set up the educational advocate program for B. Carroll to run and represent them children. And when I set up the pardon program and had Dwight Davis run that, and there's a whole bunch of people back in the day that got pardons and other things to clean up of that property over there. I was part of the group of people who fought for that. When you go over Governor Prince Boulevard from downtown and look over there to the left, that's going to be developed soon. I have blood over there from work being put in with other like-minded people. And I'm going to be over there involved to make sure that the people who's trying to take, because I call Wilmington the city of the exploited, where there's always people trying to come in here and take from us, take from us, take from us. But they don't want to give back. I'm going to stop now. Can you all put the number up there, because I need to let people talk, and they can say whatever they want to say, because in the First Amendment, you get to say whatever you want to say. So if anybody has anything they'd like to say, I can let this time be used for that purpose, or if not, then I can go back and pull up some other things that I might want to say, but I'd like to give you all a chance to, if you have any comment about what's going on. Okay. Now, hello, welcome to Community Crossfire.
Hey, Sam. This is Pastor D, cousin. How you doing?
Just fine. How you doing, cousin?
Hey, Sam, listen, first of all, let me express my profound support and appreciation for what you do and have always done on the council, which is to give people knowledge that they don't have, so that they can do the best job they can of protecting and serving the community that elected them. Having said that, I want to echo your remarks about Trippy. Trippy's a good guy, but he's not to be taken lightly in terms of his intelligence. And unfortunately, President Hanifa Shabazz is accustomed to the Willie Lynch benefit. She's accustomed to being the go-between for people who don't have our best interests at heart and our community. And it has not benefited Wilmington. There's so many things concerning money that have been done. But the most unfortunate thing, and I'll end with this, is could you share with us how what you are up against now, which is basically keeping you from giving school money to poor people, to people who don't have it, keeping you from being able to get the funds where they are supposed to go, how that connects also with the violence and how it connects directly information. If you can do that in a way which even the average lay person would understand.
Okay. Thank you for calling. I'll touch on that quickly.
All
Thanks,
right.
Nat. Okay. I mean, actually, we're almost going to have to do a whole show on that. But you have to keep in mind that the way this thing works is they have to make it, they actually have to create a situation where they teach the community to only go to sellouts or only go to the boss if you need help. They don't want the people such as myself to be able to provide you assistance or money, because then that defeats their purpose. So what ends up happening is, yes, the kids who call me may be a little different than the kids that call Bud Freer, geographically and otherwise, because we don't hang out in the same place. And so the kids that I may be connected with all over the city may not be the billionaires' kids. And so not having the money kind of deprives people. And like I told some of the people involved on council, if any of these kids who sent me a letter trying to get scholarship money where my money is missing, don't let nothing happen to none of them kids. Hello, thank you for calling.
Hello?
Yes, how you doing? Welcome
Yes.
to Community Crossfire.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, you can go ahead and speak.
I-
Turn your TV down, ignore the TV.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm turning my TV on.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Guy for doing what you're doing, for speaking out on the citizens of Wilmington.
Thank you.
And can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and I just want to say thank you. And my question is, can the city of Wilmington own, like, McDonald's franchises?
That's something that it would have to be looked into. It's not, certainly not the norm, but
Is there a referendum in place?
to do that?
No, to block it.
Okay, why? You think that the city's gonna have a McDonald's?
No. My question is, I think that the city should generate more revenue for the city.
Oh, okay.
They should own, like they should own businesses.
Well, I mean, there's ways we're involved in economic development, but usually governments really, I mean, like, we're tax exempt. So, you know, governments really don't get involved in a whole lot of profit-making activities, but sometimes there's ways to do things, kind of creative ways, but not just straight the city of Wilmington's buying a McDonald's. That's pretty much not the norm. But that can certainly be explored. Like, you don't kill an idea. That's what you take an
Right.
idea and explore it. So,
Like, we're the only city that we don't have a bakery in the city of Wilmington. I was thinking, like, like, link the Boat School, which is Howard, which is a city school, link that with the city. The city could own the building. Howard could be, because they have to have hours, like, to do their apprenticeship. They could also link, like, Dana, who is the face of the city. He's a baker from Wilmington. They could use him as the face, and they could merge all these entities together and bring out a business, and the city be the landlord, basically. Like, if they own houses, they own Wilmington Housing Authority, which, through federally, why couldn't they own a business?
well, as you're now kind of, getting into more detail, there's instances where the city may own the property and somebody else operates the business. Now you're also talking about like a training program where the city might be involved to have some type of equity interest in the business, even though the city may not directly operate the business. Because if you think about it, the city has equity interest in whatever corporation we buy stock from. So that's why I'm saying, you know, it's just a matter of the details of how you do it, but conceptually, the city can be involved in helping to facilitate economic development in a lot of ways, but usually the government just doesn't straight buy a business. But I want to thank you for your call, and we'll follow up on that topic.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, people have to be creative, and then they have to have a place to come to kind of go forward with that idea. Hello, Community Crossfire. Hello, Community Crossfire.
Yes, I have a quick question for a school project.
Yes.
Okay, House Bill 110, sponsored by Helene Keeley and co-sponsored by Senator Margaret Rose Henry, is for the legalization of marijuana in Delaware, wherein they're expected to make about $22 million a year in revenue, and some of that is to money is to go back into the various communities, legal issues, or what have you, to generate revenue. I'd like to know your quick thoughts on that, being a man who's well aware of legal issues and is a politician. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my initial reaction when I heard about that is I didn't feel comfortable in the government getting in the business of selling weed. I mean, it kind of concerned me. That's something that, you know, just didn't set right. That was my initial reaction, but I also don't want people being criminalized for having marijuana neither. Okay, so that part of that whole package that people are discussing in separate parts, that's a good idea, but I wasn't totally comfortable, especially the whole purpose of it was to make money. It wasn't for any other reason. But look, we're going to have to wrap this up, and I'm sure that issue is going to be discussed further. But thank everybody for joining me here on Community Crossfire and the 3 shows today, and I do want to thank Bob Williams, Michelle Harley, Vash Turner, Trippy Congo for not drinking the Kool-Aid. Those are 4 very smart, intelligent, independent people who aren't owned, and I was happy that they didn't vote for the foolishness. Y'all take care now. Sam Guy signing out.